The pressure is currently on for Republicans to deliver something big on taxes. Not to deliver for their voters, sorry if I led you to believe that. I mean for the donors, of course. Many of the Republican voters, the regular run-of-the-mill people, will end up either getting nothing or very little from this tax bill. Some, apparently 1 in 5 in a study I saw, might end up paying more taxes. But for wealthy individuals, for corporations, this is potentially an amazing bill. And those donors want to see that it happens. And it could be that if they don't deliver this, they're in for some big trouble. And so we're gonna turn to that in a second. But first, revisions of the bill are going on right now. And as you pointed out earlier, we don't actually have the text of it. We don't know exactly what's gonna happen. And so we're getting reports coming out of some committee meeting hearings, trying to get an idea of what they might be modifying. We've got a significant one for you. So this was tweeted. If we can bring up this tweet, you'll see this is significant. Look at that from Jim Tankersley. The Ways and Means spokesman confirms that the SAL is the state and local tax deduction. So that was one of the big things in the new bill that would have hurt regular people, not being able to deduct your state and local taxes. So it's gone for individuals, stays for pass-throughs. And what that means basically is summed up in the bigger tweet, is that a regular person is not going to be able to deduct their state and local taxes, but corporations will be able to, and rich individuals who create these dummy corporations that they funnel their personal income through effectively, people who have the capacity to do that will still be able to deduct state and local taxes in what is apparently the most recent draft. And so that is just another thumb in the eye of regular Americans. That they have to pay for this thing one way or another, and one way is to take away tax breaks. Not tax breaks for wealthy, powerful, connected people, but for regular people who might not even know that this is going on. And so we were talking during the break about this battle to get this passed. My belief is that the only thing potentially stopping it from being passed is how far they're trying to go in one step. They might be trying to get too much, driving up the deficit too much, turning off. There's a couple of Republican senators who've come out and said they won't vote for anything that raises it as much as it currently does. I mean, what do you think? I know that you're less optimistic that it will be stopped.
I don't think it's going to be stopped. I think they're going to get this one because people like the idea of paying less in taxes. It's just, they're saying that it's going to be $1,000 each of us get to keep, and like, okay. The healthcare thing they lost because that was about life and death issues. It was taking away people's access to doctors. It was a really easy one to understand. But when it comes to cutting taxes, I mean, even when you talk about deducting state and local taxes, I mean, my eyes glaze over and I love this shit. So it's like, I just don't see the groundswell of opposition happening with tax cuts the way it did with healthcare. And I think they're gonna get it. And even though there's some Republican squabbling, because there are people in the Republican Party, especially on the Tea Party side, that really do want to do something about the debt and the deficit. They're serious about that. So they could be somewhat of a problem, but they're vastly outnumbered in the House. I think there are people in the House on the Democratic side that vote with Republicans quite consistently that might jump over the side of the aisle. I just don't see.
That's the fear.
Yeah, I just don't see this dying.
Yeah, look, I mean, what we have to hope is that there's strong opposition inside of government to the plan to try to scare, a couple people, and also to try to get some of those conservative Democrats to stay in line, as they did on the healthcare bill and a few other significant bills. But I think that it is really going to come down to the people watching this program, people across this country, making clear that this is something they will vote based on. Like, we can't afford defections, and we want to scare some Republicans, like happened with healthcare, to vote the right way, especially in the Senate, where the margin for error is negligible. I mean, considering the way they're going to pass this, they can lose 2 or 1. They can lose 1, I think. They can lose 2. If they lose 3, it loses, and so we need to put pressure on them. You're right about the state and local taxes. Probably does make people's eyes glaze over. One of the reasons I focus on that is, for most Americans, if that goes through, that's a noticeable, significant
100%.
hit to you.
And
it's something that we do. Like, and I don't know about you, but when I do my taxes, there's a whole lot in that thing that I don't even know what it is, and I know I don't qualify for it. But I do deduct my state and local taxes. That's one of the few things we get. And that's why we focus on things like that they want to take away the deduction for interest you pay on your student loans.
Yeah.
Like, how many people watching this program right now are buried in student loan debt, and they just want to walk, and then just press down on the stuff burying you, just make it a little bit heavier.
And the medical expenses, they want to get rid of that one too. But that's one of those things that like all of this, not just I get why you focus on those deductions, but I'm just saying like all of the details of taxes, I just don't think that many people understand it, pay that close attention. They hear tax cut, they go cool. I just think it's that simple. I mean, you do TurboTax, you hope it works out, and you don't get audited. I mean, a lot of us are very basic when it comes to taxes, and I'm speaking as one of them.
Yeah.
You know, like I just don't understand what all of the minutia of this issue is, and I think a lot of people are just going to tune it out, let it go through. I mean, that's my crystal ball. I don't actually know, but I don't have a lot of faith in us understanding or caring enough about tax cuts to stop it. I hope I'm wrong.
So what about some of the pushback they're getting from groups like the Club for Growth? So Club for Growth apparently not super excited about this bill. We've got a statement from their president who said, while the corporate tax cut will lead to some increase in our nation's GDP, yeah, that's why they want it. That's why they want the corporate tax cut. The rest of the provisions on individual taxpayers fails the pro-growth test. I agree with him there. I don't think that these tax cuts will lead to growth, but I think we disagree about why exactly. He went on to say, the group called the higher taxes on the wealthiest Americans, which that's not true. I don't understand what that's a reference to because I have kept looking over this. But they say that that's class warfare, the likes of which would make Democrats green with envy. It also said the cuts to the pass-through tax rate was too small. So they get this cut to the pass-through rate. It means many millionaires and billionaires will be able to pay a tiny fraction of what they're currently paying for the majority of their income. But that's too small. God, these people are arrogant. And said that there's no reason to wait to repeal the estate tax. I don't know a lot of billionaires. Maybe this dude knows a lot of billionaires that are like just on the edge of kicking the bucket and they gotta get that thing passed right now. I don't know why you have to rush it so much, but they're saying that this isn't enough.
Yeah. That's the crazy in the party.
That's bananas.
Yeah, that's the crazy in the Republican Party, and that's kind of why John Boehner's no longer there. There is this wing that's so extreme that if they don't get everything that they ask for, then they're just not going to support it. They're fun to watch because they're the one tanking a lot of this stuff. So that my hope is actually in this wing of the Republican Party. If this is going to go down, they're going to be the ones to do it. The Democrats, they're on the sidelines on this one, but there is a crazy wing.
Yeah, and I mean, they're cutting the corporate tax rate from like by 40%, I think is the amount?
From 35 to 20.
To 20, I don't know, I'm not good at math, but that's something like 40%, right? It's somewhere around there.
I have no idea.
That's, like we already have effectively an aristocracy in this country. A political and a financial aristocracy, generally it's the same thing, they're jammed together. And this is just like throwing like quick grow on it. Like, these corporations are already hoarding money. There is effectively zero evidence that showering these corporations with money will lead to one job actually coming from this. And yet they're gonna do it. We've been through this. Like you were alive under Bush, right? You saw the tax cuts that they had, the massive amount of money that they gave. It doesn't produce jobs. Let's jump ahead for 1 second to that because TYT Investigates has been looking into this and they found one particular ironic example of that disconnect between the rhetoric coming out about what these tax cuts will accomplish and what we know they will actually accomplish based on experience. So if we could jump to graphic 24, you're gonna see a tweet from Rand Paul. So he says there, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I thought it was called the Cuts Act, will create nearly 1 million new jobs. And if you were to click on that, you'd see that's not just him guessing. That actually comes from a report by the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation. Now, one of the execs on the Tax Foundation is David Lewis. And so David Lewis helping to produce this report from the Nonpartisan Tax Reform. They just always want tax reform, but they're not partisan. Fine. And then Paul Ryan gets to say that it's going to create the jobs because that's interesting. David Lewis is not just some academic who runs stats, regressions. He's formerly the executive director, corporate tax and chief tax executive for Eli Lilly and Company. And so that's a corporation that has had experience with big tax cuts before. And you can go to our website and you'll see the full breakdown of what TYT Investigates found, but in effect, Eli Lilly, back in 2004, when we had this tax holiday, which is my favorite type of holiday, by the way. Oh man, my mom used to cook some great food for those. They repatriated $8 billion. They brought it back into the country at a lower tax rate that was allowed to them by the Republicans. It was 5.25%, which is crazy. That's like duty, basically.
Nothing.
Like it was almost duty free to bring the money back in. And so this company, Eli Lilly, that had the chief tax exec that now is producing stuff that Rand Paul is using to push his plan, got $8 billion at almost no taxes. So man, they must have just grown and grown and grown. But for some reason, no. In 2004, when that happened, they had 22,751 domestic employees. 3 years later, that had dropped by 10%. As of today, it's lower than 19,000. So they've lost 15 to 18% of their workforce after being showered in billions of effectively tax-free dollars. So why would we believe that doing it again is gonna do anything other than enrich executives like the dude putting out that report?
Because they're lying.
That's what it is, actually. I think that's probably what it is, actually. Hold on, I'm gonna write to them to update the article. They're lying.
Yeah, I mean, they'll just say these things because they sound good, knowing that people aren't gonna pay attention. They're just lying.
So your prediction is that before Thanksgiving, it's gonna pass, and it's gonna pass on the first go through? Because I don't know if you know, this is on a constrained timeline. Before Thanksgiving, they wanna get this thing done. A massive rewriting of the tax code and a handoff of literally trillions of dollars. They wanna get it done in like 2 weeks.
I don't actually think they're gonna pull that off because we're also forgetting about some other huge deadlines that they have on December 8th.
What's that?
So we have to fund the entire government for 2018. They were supposed to do this in 12 separate bills that were carefully crafted in committee, and they never do that on time. It was due on September 30th, got none of them done. And so they pushed their deadline off until December 8th. Also on December 8th, we have to raise the debt ceiling. So we have two giant things that need to be done on December 8th, and they're gonna do this by Thanksgiving. I don't think so. Maybe the House will pass something, but I don't see this being signed because they also, again, we don't have the bill yet.
Yeah, we don't know what it is.
Yeah,
that didn't really stop them on a couple iterations of the healthcare bill.
Well, I mean, the House can vote multiple times on this, and we might see something like that, but the more details come out, the more these Club for Growth people start arguing, and then there's media reports about like, oh, middle class people are gonna get hit with tax increases, like, oh God, we have to edit that. So you're seeing the edits happen already. These people are very big on pushing their deadlines. I highly doubt by the time we're eating turkey, we're gonna have something past both the House and the Senate. It sounds ridiculous to me.
Help us build independent media together. Come join us, tytnetwork.com/join.